AEW World Champion. I told Tony before I came out here that I don't want to hold this place up. There is a long laundry list of talent in the back that can fill my shoes. They could be champion. I'm talking Bryan Danielson. I'm talking Jon Moxley. I'm not here to stand in anybody's way. I told Tony I would relinquish this title, but Tony told me that he believes in CM Punk. And he believes this is just a bump in the road, and I'm gonna tell you, God damn it, I needed to hear that. Because sometimes I get a little down on myself, and that doubt creeps in, and that doubt can ruin anything. But standing here in front of you, I'm gonna promise you one thing. I'm not gonna let that doubt creep in. I'm not gonna let it ruin anything. And the get back is gonna be bigger than the setback.
This is GKW. Welcome into another edition of Good Karma Wrestling across the Good Karma brand stations. I'm Gabe Knudsen from ESPN Milwaukee, joined as always by Brian Rowitz from ESPN West Palm and Jonathan Hood, the All-Atlantic GKW champion from ESPN 1000 in Chicago. Always appreciate everybody being here. And that's where we have to start. It's hard to believe that was less than a week ago because there's so much, especially on the injury front, that has happened over the last 6-7 days in the world of professional wrestling. And that's where we start tonight's show, guys. We start with the injury to CM Punk. And it was a little confusing at the time in the promo. I think they were kind of trying to figure it out and eventually got to a good spot. But after Punk seemed like he was going to relinquish the title, turns out he's not relinquishing the title because AEW is going to do this interim champ thing. We also found out then over the weekend that Cody Rhodes, and then saw that Cody Rhodes had a gruesome injury, and he actually wrestled with a torn pec at Hell in a Cell on Sunday. So I guess we start with these two injuries, guys. Which one is kind of the bigger one? Who's going to have a harder time? Which company, AEW, WWE, who's going to have a harder time overcoming the respective injury to arguably the top baby faces on each brand?
Well, from my standpoint, I believe it's Cody Rhodes, because we've talked about this on GKW a lot, is trying to find who the babyface is or who the next contender is to take on Roman for either one of those championships. We had Peter Rosenberg on from ESPN New York, and we asked him about, outside of, the Roman Reigns, who's the hottest name in the WWE. And he gave us Cody Rhodes first. I think we all nodded our head in agreement, because even though he's fresh off of AEW television, Cody Rhodes comes over and he becomes the number one babyface. He's in the Cena slot as the number one babyface in the WWE, and now he goes down to injury. There's a reason why Cena's going to be coming back in a few weeks in Laredo, Texas, because they really need bodies because of the injury. So with CM Punk with the injury, we documented that on this show as well. As I told you guys, Punk didn't look right against Hangman for the championship. He did not look right when he was stage diving off into the crowd in LA. And so now he's on the injured list too. There's a plethora of wrestlers for AEW to go with to be interim champion or to be one of the top contenders leading into the championship. But Cody Rhodes hurts the WWE with him not being there.
So I think the crazy part is a week ago we sat here and we sort of envisioned what the summer would be like for both companies. And it was these two guys. It was going to be Cody winning the Money in the Bank and being the face of the franchise. It was going to be Summer of Punk. And now all of a sudden both of them go down in the same week. That is a big blow to both of them. I agree with what you're saying from Cody. And, we talked about it a lot. I agree that he is the face of the company right now. But I think WWE has an easier time replacing and just plugging and play and saying, hey, Cena, come back. And maybe this is an extended run. I think it hurts AEW more because I think Punk was sort of that name right now, that shiny toy they're showing off to Warner, saying, hey, look, this guy. You've seen him at WrestleMania. Now he's our champion. And they don't really have that anymore. Like Moxley, we assume is going to be that guy, but he didn't have that same sort of, name power. Jericho, I don't see him getting a run again. Punk was going to be the face of the company this summer, and I think this was an opportunity for them to really take that next step with Roman out. Like, there was even a chance for AEW to gain some ground on WWE, so I think Punk is the bigger blow right now.
It's just, to me, it all swings for WWE. Is this just an appearance for John Cena? Because, I mean, John's getting to the point that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was when he was making his last run in WWE, wrestling John Cena in those back-to-back WrestleManias where, man, this really ain't worth it for you anymore, Dwayne. Like, you can make so many movies, and it wasn't. And he tore a pec, and he had to be sidelined and pushed back movies, and that's the reason we haven't seen The Rock wrestle a legitimate match in WWE since then. And I'm curious if this is just an appearance for John Cena or if it's another run like we saw last year where kudos to Cena, because last summer he was along for the ride. He was showing up for the house shows. He was showing up every night on Monday, every week for Monday Night Raw. So if Cena's going to be around, well, then you found out, okay, we don't have Cody, we slide in John Cena, we're going to be okay. But if that's not the case, which in my opinion it shouldn't be, because again, John Cena is involved with some pretty big projects at this point. I just don't know who steps up. Like SmackDown, it's unbelievable how WWE can pretty much only put on one good show at a time. And maybe that's why they're consolidating their championships. Like for a while, SmackDown was fantastic. SmackDown, like I did not want to miss SmackDown. I'm always watching it. Like SmackDown feels like it's been a repeat for the last 2 months. Like they just, and certainly the Sasha Banks and Naomi situation didn't help anything over there, but their women's division isn't very strong over there because of that. And because Roman Reigns just blew through everybody at SmackDown.
Are you saying you don't want to see New Day versus Sheamus and his friend for the 8th straight month? Is that what you're saying right now? Are you over that? I don't understand.
Sheamus and his friend. Sheamus and his friend. Ridge Holland. By the way, Ridge Holland. Oh, we are, by the way, this week on SmackDown, we are getting an Intercontinental Championship match. So, I mean, everybody's very excited. I know Brian is very excited to see his guy Ricochet finally defend that IC strap on SmackDown. But like Monday Night Raw was really good. It was pretty compelling with what they did with Cody Rhodes. And I feel like Monday Night Raw has been trending as that really good show. But while SmackDown was good, like Raw wasn't very good. It seems like WWE can only put on one good show throughout the course of a week. And maybe that's why they're consolidating. But they just have a problem with depth on the roster all around, which happens when you cut 80, 90 guys over the course of a calendar year. So now when you have these injuries, how do you backfill when you haven't been building up guys for championship runs against Roman Reigns? So it's going to be curious to see what WWE is. To me, because of the depth of that AEW roster, and yes, maybe it ends up being hurting them with the merger as they try to impress the execs over at Warner. But again, like, last night, Jon Moxley. Okay, yeah. Put the strap on Mox. I'm cool with that. Put the strap on Daniel Bryan. I'm cool with that. There's a number of different guys I feel you could do that with. I mean, a week later, AEW just really screwed up. They had Rey Fenix right there. What are you doing? I don't understand. Like, come on. Like, this.
Here we go.
A bunch of cowards.
Here we go.
Tony, you're a coward. Like, he was in the final four of the Casino Battle Royale. But it's got to be Cody, because he was their guy. He was what they were building, and now they have nothing to build around. Because you're going to have to take time now to build Seth Rollins back up, because as cool as it was for Cody to beat Seth just lost to a guy with a torn pec. It's going to take a little bit of time, even though he's Seth freaking Rollins, to build him back up a little bit.
Well, if nothing else, Seth Rollins is the number one heel in the company now based on what he did on Monday Night Raw. I mean, he is a heat-seeking missile right now because of what he did there. But see, bro, here we go with the WWE. Here's where we are. So Cody Rhodes is out. You wouldn't have to break glass and get John Cena in there in Laredo in a few weeks if Cody Rhodes was healthy. And that's a shame on the WWE. That's a shame on the WWE for them not being able to build more baby faces. Like after Cody's hot, sure, but there should be someone else. This is why they're trying to build Riddle. If you notice this now, slowly but surely, because Randy Orton's not out, here comes Riddle. They're going to try to build him to be a singles contender at some point. Again, I thought they thought of him as a comedy act, and now look at what they're doing now. They're trying to put him in a position to succeed. But this is what happens when you don't build your stars. This is where you are right now. And so it's a shame that McMahon had to call John Cena and says, "Hey, pal, what's your schedule looking like? We don't have Cody." He goes, "I can help you out for SummerSlam in Nashville." Okay, well, you got to put some kid over that's awful. the United States champion. I mean, ultimately, that's what's going to happen. We're going to get a Fandango Jericho situation if John Cena is going to take on, what's the kid's name? The United States champion?
Austin Theory.
Austin Theory, right. If that's going to be the case, then that's going to be a mess for John Cena. But yeah, he's going to try to help Vince as much as possible because there's a hole in the roster. But it's a hole that was put in there by Vince McMahon by not elevating the next level. And I'd ask you guys this. So why can't Drew McIntyre be in that spot, to be in Cody's spot, to seriously contend for the championship? Why can't it be Big E's hurt, so it can't be Big E? You notice what they did with Lashley. The producer, the referee told Lashley, you're still on the camera. Grab a championship and hold it up. Hold it up, Lashley. Did you notice that? Like, they would go to commercial, but they're like, hey, give Lashley this fake championship and just hold it up because you want the people to believe that eventually you'll be champion again. They're just stuck, and they're trying to do what they can to survive until Cody comes back.
But I feel like they have more
answer that, by the way.
Pocket.
I just want to answer Jay Hood's question. The answer to that simply is on SmackDown. Like, there's nobody over there. Like, who? I mean, unless you bring him over to Raw to fight some of these other guys to have him go head to head with Kevin Owens, like his last real feud. I mean, I guess he got involved with the Bloodline and they did the 6-man tag at WrestleMania Backlash. But his last real feud before that was kind of comedy. Like they kind of, okay, we're just going to do this in the meantime, put you over. But he hasn't had anything to really sink his teeth into and dive in to make him be that legitimate contender, be that legitimate baby face, because he's over on SmackDown and the SmackDown roster is so thin.
Yeah, but also, like, a guy like Riddle, like, he's WWE over. Like, he has a catchphrase. He rides a scooter. Like, he gets that reaction. He gets those pops. Like, that is WWE over. So they have that. They also, I feel like, have more in their back pocket where they can call a Cena. There were rumors last week that maybe Cesaro heads back there. Maybe this is their chance to say, all right, fine, maybe there is something there. Let's do something there. But they've shown that they don't really value the title. Like, we'll talk about it later. Roman's not going to be on another pay-per-view. He hasn't defended the belt since Mania. We're in June already, and it's going to go into July that he hasn't even defended those titles. So they're just going to try and plug and play and put someone else in there. And honestly, like, would you be surprised if they call out someone else? Like, if Austin comes back or any of those guys that you just sort of wash, rinse and repeat and say, hey, Hulk, you doing anything this week? Like, can you come get a pop here? Like, this is
Did
what
you
they're
say Hulk?
do.
Hold on. Did you say Hulk as in Hogan?
Yes, like this is what they do.
Wait, are you
they get those numbers?
Wait. Are you going? Is the next step here? Are you going to suggest that Ric Flair does his retirement match instead for WWE?
It wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't put it past Vince. Like, as great as Rollins is as a heel, there's no counter to that. Like, there's no great face to take on Rollins. Like, him just being a heel is pointless at this point. Like, they've put themselves in this corner, but they're going to find a way to get out of there and get those cheap pops every single week. And even, I think it was Booker T said on his podcast, I wouldn't rule out Cody being on TV the next few weeks. Like, he's still going to be around. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's still going to be there and have a presence.
Well,
offline, you and me and Gabe had to talk about your listening habits.
I
Booker T's podcast.
I read a quote. I didn't listen to it. I read a quote.
Oh my God. Booker T's podcast, of all people.
Read a quote, okay?
Mr. WWE. I mean, unbelievable. Okay, we need to talk.
But I mean, Cody did say, I mean, and maybe that was just storyline, Cody trying to be the tough guy, talking about how he was going to do everything in his power to be there, which seems impossible because if you're actually going to have surgery on that, you can't come back and like try to wrestle on it, especially in, a ladder match, which is going to be inherently dangerous. It just doesn't make any sense for him to come back for Money in the Bank, even though he kind of alluded to that in his promo.
Yeah, that is lying to the audience because whether that's John Cena, and John Cena's Superman, okay? He should have come back in 6 months. I think he came back in 3.5 or 4 months from an injury. Triple H has had that injury, and that was about 5 months or so. So there's no real reason for him to rush back. The company will run fine without him. He'll be okay. But when he comes back, it's going to be even cool. Like, people think he won't be back until the Rumble next year.
That's possible. It is 100% possible because, I mean, it could be 4 to 6 months. Like 6 months would put us, I mean, if he's out 6 months and he doesn't return till early January, Why not just save them for the Rumble and get a big pop out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
But
That
why
would
would
make
they
sense
lie
to
to the
me.
audience? They've made a big statement. They don't want to lie to the audience about what to expect. Like, isn't that what happened with Sasha and Naomi? They don't want to lie to their audience.
The WWE always lies to its audience.
But they put their
Yeah,
statement,
I mean,
they don't want to.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to put Roman Reigns on some posters for some premium live events and then suddenly take him off of them, would they? They wouldn't do that.
But you know what, guys? But you know what, guys? Here's what the WWE doesn't lie. Here's what they don't lie. When they say premium live events, premium live means house show. That's the old school house show. It's premium live, and it's a live event. Premium live events means house shows you pay for on Peacock. They are not lying when they and you saw. Hey, we all saw Hell in the Cell. It was kind of like a glorified house show outside of the main event and the first women's and the women's match for the women's championship. Otherwise, it was kind of like a house show, but that you paid for. Premium live event. That actually is true. They actually didn't lie about that.
Good for you, WWE, for telling the truth. We appreciate you and your truth-telling habits. They're fantastic. All right, so obviously these big injuries are going to affect both these companies for their plans for the rest of the summer. But as we move on, we now do what we love to call here on GKW the 3 count. 3 of the other top stories that we're keeping an eye on from this past week. Brian, what do we have at number 1 in the 3 count?
All right, guys, a lot has gone on in the wrestling world the past week. Social media obviously upset with some of it. So which booking decision do you have the biggest issue with from the past week in the world of wrestling?
I mean, it's obvious. I already teased at it. Like, what are we doing? Come on, Ray Phoenix. He's right there. Like, give him a chance. Like, CM Punk just went down. Ray Phoenix is right there. Like, the crowd was going crazy for him. Crowd wanted him. Crowd wanted Ray Phoenix to be the last one standing. Ray Phoenix versus Jon Moxley would have been fantastic. Contrasting styles. It would have been a lot of fun. You're going to tell me you would have enjoyed that match? I know you guys would have enjoyed that match. Ray Phoenix should be the AEW interim champion, and every week he is not. I am calling Tony Khan a coward.
Jeez, he's got no hat to take off this week. He's just angry. He's just pointing in the camera angry in our Zoom. And you know what? I'm with Gabe. I understand because I know why Gabe is a huge fan because he's tremendous. There's no doubt. Boy, what booking issues did we have? There's a lot. How about just the random GKW wheel of booking? Let's just go to Dana Brooke.
Yeah,
let's go to that.
I mean, that's. If it came back to me, that's actually a legitimate one. That like,
I mean, Becky Lynch. Whatever you think of Becky Lynch, champion or no champion, she's over. People love Becky Lynch, but heel, babyface, whatever you think, she's one of the top workers, one of the best top workers. Women's division aside, she's one of the best workers in the WWE. And you put her in a joke match with Dana Brooke, and listen, it confused everything because it's like. The 24/7 championship is being defended while Becky Lynch is in there. It was completely confusing. And then Dana Brooke beats Becky Lynch. So are you trying to bury her? That doesn't get Dana Brooke over because we know that she's a joke and the championship thing is a joke. So I just thought that was odd placement and it just didn't make sense to me. And my thought initially is Becky Lynch chasing all these other schmoes for the 24/7 championship in the back now? Like, what's going on? I thought that was weird.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I mean, another one from that same night, the Judgment Day, I guess, is all of a sudden different. And maybe this was a panic move because of Cody, but Edge gets kicked out and we assume is going to become a face now and then just go back on everything he said the last month of, sheep and playing the hits and taking a shot at, that town's sports teams. But that seemed like a rushed judgment, especially when you could have just gone with Finn or AJ as your face. Like, if you wanted to go that route, like, why did you have to panic like that?
Gabe, here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. Hell in the Cell. Who got the pinfall in that six-person match? Who got the pinfall? It was Edge.
Yep.
So why do you turn on Edge? Edge should have lost the pinfall. That way, the rest of Judgment Day be like, you know what, you're an old man. You can't hack it anymore. We're bringing in the Fiend. We're bringing in our guy. Why would you have Edge win the match and then turn on him the next day?
Doesn't make sense.
Because there's no logic. The other one I'll throw out there also coming from last night, Swerve and Keith Lee. Like, they had a good thing going to the tag team. Eventually they break up great, but like, I feel like it's a wasted breakup in that battle royal. And my first thought was like, okay, hey, like, they're just competitive. Like, I thought Keith Lee would sort of give a wink and be like, all right, good move. But all on social today, Swerve's tweeting, dead weight and things like that. So it appears they've broken up that tag team in a random half-hour battle royal that opened Dynamite, which doesn't quite sit well with me with the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess I never saw them as a legitimate tag team that was going to actually compete for the AEW champion. Like, to me, those are two singles competitors. They got thrown in this tag team. They were fun. Like, it was a fun Swerve in their glory was a fun name. But ultimately, like, I see those as two singles competitors.
But would you
it was
have
an
an
odd
issue
way to
if a
do
week
it,
and a half
but
ago they won the tag titles? Would you have an issue with that if they won the tag titles?
no, but I never thought that they would.
Okay.
Like I didn't think that they would actually go out there because again, they're fun, but ultimately I think of Keith Lee as a singles competitor. But the real one, yeah, it's Becky Lynch. Like I think you could have done some fun things with the 24/7 title with Becky Lynch and bring legitimacy to it. Like she could have, you put out this angle of Becky's just so hungry for gold that she will take anything, and then she has a 24/7 open challenge every week and just starts wrestling great matches on Raw. You could have done something there, but to have her lose to Dana Brooke, and again, with the assistance of Asuka, you obviously see what they're doing. They're building towards a Becky Lynch versus Asuka feud. You don't need to include Dana Brooke in that to me, but that's the most confusing one to me is having actually Dana Brooke on Monday Night Raw pin Becky Lynch's shoulders with assistance or without assistance, 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring.
I will say it's remarkable the 24/7 title is still a thing. Like we ripped them for their long-term storytelling and how they can't do it anymore. It feels like this title's been
their
around
best
for a
long-term
decade
story.
at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, like it's crazy. So
Which
at least they're sticking with that. I guess that's a positive.
shout out to R-Truth, man, because he's the one who makes it interesting.
Yeah.
I think going back to the Judgment Day, was Edge hurt in Chicago? And is this the reason why they kicked him out of Judgment Day? Do we know the answer to that? Brian, do you have the information
No,
on that?
I haven't seen anything about that.
Okay, because I don't know why that Edge would be kicked out. The man cut his hair for this gimmick. Okay, so if he's not hurt, the only thing I can see is the reason why that they're going with Finn Balor is because Edge is not 100%, and which is going around obviously in wrestling. Because otherwise, if I see him on my television next Monday and he's healthy, like, so you talk down to us because, well, we're the reason why that the WWE sucks because we blame the fans, which is usually the most lamest thing from the WWE. When you can't find anything else to blame us because we're at fault. So if you turn on Edge and I see him on my TV next week, then I don't know what the hell they're doing because ultimately, again, if he's not hurt, it should have been Edge to take the pinfall to lose at Hell in a Cell.
I guess I just assumed with the stretcher job that he did, he's going to be off television for the next few weeks, go home, spend some time with Beth and the family and the kids, and then maybe, come back in time for a run at SummerSlam. But
I don't forgive you, Edge. No, you talk shit about us. You talk shit about us. So no, I don't forgive you. So come back as a heel. Screw you.
But here's the other thing. But I mean, he's going to have to come back as a babyface, right? Because he's going to want retribution day. But he's just going to end up doing what we just saw. Of, okay, why are Finn Balor, AJ Styles, and Liv Morgan? They're not really a cohesive unit, but they all have beef. So is that what he's going to do? He's just going to grab another random female, and are him and Finn Balor literally just like trading places? Like they got traded for each other. They're going to switch jerseys and trade places, and we're going to see that same 6-person tag match at SummerSlam. Is that like? I just don't know. I don't know how he gets retribution as one person when he has that whole faction to go up against. And if they want that faction to get off the ground, they have to leave Edge behind. So maybe they actually have Edge stay off of television for a while.
But they could have done this same angle and actually played out. Like it could have been Finn joining, and then down the line, like all of a sudden, like he's the one talking, like, Damian and Rhea saying, hey, you know what? Maybe Edge is sort of like holding us down, and then you flip. But to do it the night after the pay-per-view, like I could say, when he's the one who won the match for you, it makes zero sense. Another thing I'll throw out there, social media was complaining about this week, new gold coming to AEW. We know Jay Hood is the AEW Atlantic GKW champion, but an AEW Atlantic champion will be crowned at Forbidden Door. So any issues with the new belt in AEW?
I guess I just think about... I think about when in my era growing up with wrestling, and I was a 90s kid, right? And in the 90s, they had the 2 secondary championships. They had an Intercontinental Championship, and they also had the European title. So I don't know if this is Tony Khan's attempt to do that, and they have such a stuffed roster that he decided to create another championship. Now, you also have the ROH titles in there, which kind of makes things a little bit confusing. The FTW championship, which from my understanding, when it started in the AEW, was just like a symbolic championship, but it's actually been defended a number of times over the course of its existence in AEW. So I don't like it just because they have bigger things to figure out. Like, what the hell are you doing with ROH, and what are you doing with the ROH titles and the TV title and the ROH, all the different belts that you have from Ring of Honor in AEW? Like, to me, it's overstuffed now with championships, and it's going to be even harder to kind of keep track of who has what championship in AEW as long as ROH is being blended in with everything else.
I texted you guys yesterday and told you that the AEW Dynamite show is dizzying. It's dizzying. I mean, so you're watching the show. Here comes a New Japan guy. And I understand Forbidden Doors in a couple of weeks. I get that. But you have New Japan guys, Ring of Honor guys. All of a sudden, you just introduce an All-Atlantic title tournament out of nowhere. Wait a minute. Why do you need an All-Atlantic tournament? Like, did Tony Khan just wake up on Wednesday morning? He goes, we're gonna have an All-Atlantic title tournament. We're gonna do this right now. So it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. What does that mean? There's no real explanation. You didn't have any buildup for a couple of weeks on this. You have plenty of time in your calendar out after pay-per-views to be able to introduce something like this. This is completely rushed. And for the belt marks out there that were talking about how beautiful that championship is, I told Browitz, I said, there's nothing special about that championship. They just put a couple of flags on that thing, put an AEW sticker on it, and they're like, here we go. And it's like, well, what does that even mean? They talked about how many streaming services and how many televisions around the world are watching AEW or whatever. Why is there a need for that championship now? Why do you need that now? Because you don't even need that to be a match for Forbidden Door. There's plenty of New Japan talent. There's plenty of AEW talent. You don't need another tournament for a championship now. Why do you need that now? Do you think, now Forbidden Door, it's solidified. Now I can't wait to see who's going to win the All-Atlantic Championship.
Yeah, I think
what
that's
does it
the
even
best
mean?
Point. Right, like it doesn't, especially even the way it's set up. It's going to be a 4-way at Forbidden Door with one dude from New Japan and then 3 AEW guys. So you could have done the same thing and not include New Japan and just done it at any other show. So I agree, it doesn't make sense. The trios title to me is still something I've been pushing for weeks. There's so many groups, there's so many factions that need something to do. House of Black, Death Triangle, those guys. Give them the trios title. I know there have been reports that they're waiting for Kenny. You don't need to do that. Let's do that. Let's do the trios title. And that could have been built up to Forbidden Door. Have Bullet Club versus, a House of Black or something. And the trios champion is crowned at Forbidden Door. This one, I agree. It felt odd. Hopefully they elevated. They've done a good job with their belts outside of, the last couple months of the TNT title. But as of now, it doesn't quite sit well with me.
So on any given night now, when you turn on AEW, you could see an interim AEW champ. You could see the Atlantic champ, the TNT champ, tag team champs, ROH World Heavyweight, ROH Television, ROH True, ROH Tag Team. Am I missing any? I've got 8.
I mean, they've done the AAA titles. Like the AAA tag titles have been defended on AEW television.
Did you mention the women?
Oh yeah,
I did not. So then you've got an ROH
TBS?
Women's Champion, TBS, and an AEW Women's Champ. So you got
11.
Keep your socks on. We don't want an Aaron Rodgers situation here. We don't need to see anybody's feet on camera. Don't need to see any of that. We're fine. But I mean, 11 championships, like that's 11 championships is too many damn championships, right? Oh, and by the way, Britt Baker and Adam Cole are walking around with championship belts that aren't to be defended. Oh, and I forgot the FTW championship. Like, it's belt overload.
The FTW championship, yes. Forgot about the FTW championship, yes.
So we're looking at 12 belts that can be defended, 14 belts total.
And that's the thing, like the Ring of Honor aspect, we've talked about a lot on this show. It's not like they're just off in the distance and they're their own company. They're defended in the main events of your programs. And so that's the fact that they're still there. They're still pretty prominent. So yeah, I agree. It feels like it's just them saying like, oh, we have too many guys here's a new belt to chase, but it's not quite having that effect yet.
Honest to God, did we just count 14 championships on AEW TV?
Well, 12 that can be defended. 2 are just kind of decoration for winning the Owen Hart.
Oh, yes. And yeah, that's an interesting point, too. It's like, so Adam Cole, that was a tournament. Leave the belt at home. Or like, what? Why are you still carrying that around? You going to carry that around all year? Like, that's nothing you defend. It's just an honor. It's an honor. You won the Owen Hart tournament. Put the belt in the case and then come back to TV. Why are you carrying that title around? That doesn't make any sense.
It's also a great point made in the comments here by Santo. They showed Japan for the Atlantic title. Last time I checked, they're in the Pacific. Good point. Pretty good point.
I mean, see, the Booker of the Year, man. Listen, and by the way, it's an entertaining product at points, but also when you're telling stories, they have to be able to make sense. You don't need a million championships. This is the same Tony Khan that said, we're going to have championship matches that matter. We're going to have top 10. The top 10's now gone, because that was Jim Ross' idea, by the way, the top 10. So you don't even hear about the top 10 as much anymore. And we're going to have championship matches that matter. Well, some of them do, but again, too many championships, too much confusion in the marketplace. That's just like, that's like Good Karma Radio out of West Palm is going to have English speaking, Spanish, German. Next week, they're going to have a French speaking show, all within the same. That would be confusing. That would be confusing. And this is the same thing with AEW. You're speaking 10 different languages on one show. I don't know what you're talking about. I came to a rock concert and I saw opera. Yeah. That's what AEW can be from time to time. What is this?
And also with all that going on, nothing had the chance to breathe. Like, I feel like Osprey should have been a massive moment last night, but he's in the ring. They do their thing. It's like, all right, got to go to a backstage promo. Like, everything is so boom, 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 boom. They're trying to get everything in. Let something breathe. Take out one match. Take out one promo and give everything an extra 10 seconds to breathe, because everything the last few weeks has felt way too rushed on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, FTR says, oh, yeah, Osprey and his boys back there. All of a sudden, Osprey just pops out. Well, thanks for ruining the moment. Did you know before the show that Osprey's going to show up in Independence, Missouri? I didn't. It just, oh my God, dude! Like, it feels like it's like a 2-hour inside joke.
Well,
it is.
I guess because we're talking about booking decisions. At least that's where this conversation started. Let's go ahead and ask about that. Will Osprey. I'm excited for him. I know who he is. How many of the 900,000 plus watching AEW do we think the majority are very familiar with Will Osprey? Or did that need more explanation when it happened?
Less than half.
So I think you probably needed more explanation. And I understand the timing of everything is you're just coming off the pay-per-view, one of your 4 that you have, and Double or Nothing is such a special pay-per-view for AEW because it's their first one. So they always make a big deal out of it every time it comes around. And now for the first time, you have another pay-per-view coming up in a month. But it's also with a different company that you now have to let some of the audience know who some of these people are. And Will Ospreay's a huge star, but maybe your audience doesn't know who he is and you need to explain who he is.
I sort of use the gauge of BTE. Being Elite on YouTube has about 200,000 consistent, viewers. That, I think, is the inside. Like, the 900,000 are pro wrestling fans. It's a good number. The fact that they drew over 900,000 last night against an NBA Finals game, that's damn impressive. But I do think it's a third of that audience knows who Will Ospreay is. I'll admit, Aussie Open and the rest of the guys, I'm not 100% sure who they are. Like, I'm not watching New Japan every week. I know Osprey from other stuff. So there needs to be some explaining there, and they try once in a while. But that's the stuff where I guess they're just banking on this pay-per-view sold out before a match was announced. So maybe they're just booking towards that group of people saying, hey, we know what you want. We're going to give it to you. We'll get back to the regularly scheduled program July 1st. Like, maybe that's just the route they're taking.
Brian, what was your question? We do a lot of these shows. Was it a couple weeks ago that you asked, who's the number 1 wrestler in the world, or who's the wrestler for 2022 so far, or something like that?
Who's the wrestler of the year? Yeah, because CM Punk said it was Dak Hardwood so far, the wrestler of the year.
That's right. Okay. And I said, well, the real answer, guys, is Will Ospreay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That is what I said. That's how you introduce Will Ospreay? I mean, whatever you think of Will Ospreay, he wrestles a ton of independents. He wrestles around the world. That guy's got all the moves. I mean, people love Kenny Omega, but I mean, Will Osprey is just a cut above, especially with him not being injured and available in all these shows across the world. And you introduce him in the middle of the card like, hey, it's Will Osprey. All right, we got to go to the back. Here's Tony Schiavone. Like, really? That's how you introduce? I mean, history will look at that poorly. When Conrad Thompson has 300 different podcasts, and when AEW is closed down, he'll mark this particular show and say, all right, the Tony Khan show here. Tony, what was your thinking of bringing one of the greatest wrestlers in the world into AEW in Independence, Missouri, in the middle of a show and not have any build-up? Explain that. It's going to be hard for anybody to explain that.
And his debut is going to be on Rampage, which, like, I know they want to say it's an equal show, but it's the B show, and that's where he's debuting this week. Like, that feels a little off.
It's a pre-taped show. It's a pre-taped show that starts at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Which hasn't had a consistent time for weeks, which isn't their fault, but it's an inconsistent time. It is their B show, and you have Will Ospreay on it this week in his first ever AEW match.
I guess in their defense, they have been trying to put more big matches on Rampage to try to make it feel like it is, even though it's not, right? Like to try to make it feel like you're building it up a little bit, even though, again, given its time slot and it's only an hour long, it's going to be tough, and it's pre-taped. That's always going to put you behind the 8 ball. So anybody who wants to know how Will Ospreay did, not going to be very hard to find the spoilers for Friday night's Rampage.
Max Friedman was right about Tony Khan.
I got nothing else to add. There, but we are still talking about AEW with our number 2 in the 3 count.
The AEW Interim World Champion will be crowned at Forbidden Door. John Moxley will take on the winner of Tanahashi and Goto at Forbidden Door on June 26th. So, guys, who should be the Interim AEW Champion?
I mean, it's got to be Mox, right? I guess without any idea of what the actual injury and then surgery for CM Punk is, just having this indefinite timeline out there, I have a hard time seeing Tony Khan putting the AEW championship on someone who is not AEW, right? Like it to me, that would reek of Impact putting their world championship on Kenny Omega. You know, like, yeah, he's Kenny Omega, but at the same time, like, he's not your guy. You know, he doesn't belong in your company. So they've got to fit over the 1,000 championships they have. So you can obviously do a number of different things to keep a lot of those championships relevant if you do put it on somebody from New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that guy's just not available to be on your shows week in and week out. You could find a way around that if you wanted to have some sort of New Japan versus CM Punk thing, since he's missing out on this big show. And he was obviously a big draw, I believe, for this show. You got to keep it in-house. And I think you got to keep it with the family. And it only makes sense to me that John Moxley becomes the interim champ.
I think we want to see John Moxley against CM Punk whenever CM Punk is healthy. And champion versus champion, I think that'll be intense, and I think it'll be fun to watch. Both two guys that are that really care about the business, and it's a new John Moxley too. Everything he's gone through with rehab, and he feels like he's renewed. CM Punk felt bad for being injured. I mean, that's amazing news that came out last Friday about his injury. But a fresh CM Punk against John Moxley will be box office. I think that's the match we want to see.
Yeah, that'll be great. I mean, last night sort of felt lackluster. Even the Battle Royal, like Kyle O'Reilly winning, just didn't feel like anything. It's like, okay, so obviously Mox is going to win.
Who do you think should have won?
Ray Phoenix would have been a great option.
It's a great choice. Would have been a great choice. I would have given it
to Andrade, even though he loses all those matches. Like, give him that opportunity. But it's funny when you have both companies, like the World Championship picture are polar opposites right now. In AEW, you have this convoluted Battle Royal, number one contender, another show, this show, interim champion. In the WWE, you don't even have a world champion right now. So I guess the second part to this question, which route do you guys prefer right now in terms of the world title picture? We're going interim champ or just don't see a champion for 3 months at a time?
So I think I'm going to respect the interim champ. I understand what Tony Khan's doing with this because, again, at the core, this is supposed to be, we're suspending our belief, and ultimately this is about fighting. And fighting is about being the best and having that championship. So what do we see in UFC when somebody is injured and unable to defend their championship? They don't just relinquish it. They don't go, here you go, Dana White, here's my championship. I can't. No, they have interim champions, and then they have the unification once that champ becomes healthy. So this is what happens in the real fighting world. So I like that it's starting to come to the world of professional wrestling, because it keeps you on pace with everything else happening in the world around you.
Yeah, I think on someone's TV, someone's going to show that they're the heavyweight champion. Okay,
Sure.
it's not going to happen at WWE TV. If AEW is going to be without their heavyweight champion and CM Punk and just go with Scorpio Sky, who also is injured, by the way, as a TNT champion, at the top of the card, that doesn't do it for me. I like the idea of the interim champion, and it's something that wrestling actually, guys, should have done a long time ago. The old school would be, if you don't defend the championship in 30 days, they're going to strip you the championship. And if guys were hurt past 30 days, they would honestly strip it from them and put it in some battle royal, and that guy would be the champion. The interim champion just sets up for another super bout. And so it's something that wrestling should have done years and years ago. I like the idea of the interim champion, something for us to look at. You don't have to worry about house shows and all that kind of stuff, but at least on TV, someone can represent the AEW Heavyweight Championship. Let it be Jon Moxley. I got no problem with that.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, because, I mean, whatever WWE's doing with Roman Reigns, that ain't it, man. Like, that ain't it. Like, you put both like, at least when they did it with Brock, he only had one, you know? Like, he only had one of your main championships. Now you've given both the Roman, and you've given him the same leeway as Brock to just kind of disappear and come and go as you please. Like, to me, again, it's going to be tough to kind of build somebody legitimately to face Roman Reigns when both of those championships are gone. And here's the other thing. Whoever they build up is probably going to lose to Roman Reigns whenever he comes back after not defending it for 3 or 4 months. And that's just not going to look great either.
You can write what you want as a promoter and as a booker. You can write whatever you want to write. However, you still have the right to have a story for us to be able to suspend our disbelief. And that is, if you're building a story that says, oh, at the top of the card is a heavyweight champion. Believe in this heavyweight champion. Great. Well, let's see him. Well, he's not available. Okay, so who am I supposed to believe in? Now, Cody's hurt. Now, who am I supposed to believe in now at the top of the card? Well, I can't, because you don't push anybody. That's what it comes down to. Like, the guys you push are part-timers. The guys you push are Brock Lesnar and The Rock, and guys that come and go just around WrestleMania season. And so once again, we talk about this all the time on the show. You have a roster of 100+ wrestlers from NXT UK, from the NXT, from SmackDown, Raw. You can push whoever you want to push. But when you only have the company based on 4 or 5 wrestlers you believe in and everyone else is mid-card, you get what you deserve. And it's just a plain, flat product. It's not bad, just a flat product without the heavyweight champion. It's something that you can believe in on a card.
And I really enjoy Dolph Ziggler. I think that he's been mismanaged most of his career. I feel bad for him because he got hurt when he got that opportunity. And when he cashed in his Money in the Bank, at this point, it's about a decade ago when he finally won. Like, that is one of the bigger pops. People went crazy when he won his championship. So you've got a former champ making his return to your Monday Night Raw product, and he just gets like a quick interview and then chased off by MVP and Omos. Like, again, like, this is a former champ that you could, hey, he's been off Raw TV for a while. If you present him coming back as a former champ, it wouldn't take much to heat him up and be like, oh, here's a contender for Money in the Bank.
100% agree.
But
he's always been misused. Like, that's not surprising at all.
Yeah. It just it doesn't make sense to me. Speaking of Money in the Bank, Brian Rowitz, what's number 3 on the 3 count?
The rumors were it was going to be Cody's to take this year, with him being out. Which wrestler takes home Money in the Bank this year?
The Miz.
Oh man, that is such a tough. That's such a tough question. It's such a tough question.
No, not just The Miz.
Is that the default answer? If you don't know with WWE, you just go The Miz and they'll figure it out.
Veer Mahan.
Ugh.
I don't know. Like whoever gets the Money in the Bank, is that the Money in the Bank is supposed to be the next big thing in the WWE. Now, who's that supposed to be in this company?
Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, he's the next big thing, right? I mean, I
He
know
is, but he's
historically.
ready to be called up. I think he's good enough to be called up at this point.
I mean, I guess we'll get to that in a little bit. But do you have the full report on In Your House from this past Saturday?
I did watch In Your House. That was part of my takeaway, is that like this guy's not great, but he's good enough to be on this main roster where there really is no stars right now. Like he should be up there.
Vikram says Seth. Sure. Like the Money in the Bank is supposed to be the next big thing, right? And so you get Seth Rollins' Money in the Bank. You're going to have this guy. And actually, the Money in the Bank briefcase is a rib, because you got to take that thing all over the place. You got to take that through airports. And it's a rib on you that you got to take a big thing that says Money in the Bank to airports and put it through the scanner and take it to hotels. And so it's really a joke, right? That's what it is. But sure.
But also, like
Montez Ford.
I'd be fine with that. But like to what we were just talking about, part of the intrigue of Money in the Bank, part of that Dolph moment is, when's the cashing going to happen? If there's no champion on TV, like it's an irrelevant briefcase. Like you're just holding it around. Like when are you going to cash it in? Like you get a shot every 3 months.
When's the last time Money in the Bank actually went to the next big thing?
Big E won it last year.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so
and
but
then
before
they
that,
rushed, like his cash in, but like he shouldn't have been there. He should have been elevated already, but I think they get credit for that. No.
Okay. Because before that it was Otis, but
Yes.
then they realized that they did that kind of as a payoff with the Mandy Rose story. They ended up having Miz take it away from him.
Yep.
Before that, I mean, at one point, Brock Lesnar won it,
and the year before that.
Yep, and he was the monster in the bank. I mean, they haven't necessarily always given it to that next big thing. I mean, the last time I was really excited, I think, that somebody won it was when Dean Ambrose won it, and then cashed in that night. And you had all three members of the Shield hold the WWE Championship in one night, which is a cool little thing at Money in the Bank 5-6 years ago at this point. But
okay, well, the answer is Sheamus, right? Because they try to push Sheamus down our throats. Like that was 2015. You mentioned Ambrose in 16, Corbin in 17, Braun Strowman in 18, Brock Lesnar in 19, Otis in 20, Big E in 21. Well, Big E was supposed to be that guy. I mean, he gets his neck broken by some neophyte jackass. But the Big E, people were excited about his reign. Mm-hmm. Right? So we can go all the way back to 21. I was excited for Big E because there was a breakaway from the New Day, and I liked his title reign.
To Brian's point, I mean, it was, for me, it was like, it's about damn time.
Yeah.
But there was excitement of, okay, finally they're starting to see what we're seeing with Big E. And then they gave him his championship run, and that now, unfortunately, he's on the shelf. But
that's
they don't have
frustration of this match. Like they'll throw those guys in there to get you excited. Like, is this the year that Dolph wins, or that if Theory hypothetically, and then they give it to someone else? Like Jay Hood, you joke about in case of emergency, go with Miz. Can we really rule out that Brock wins it again? Like I don't know what his contract status is, but like go back to that well. Like that wouldn't surprise me at this point.
I mean, because. Well, first of all, like who are the new people that they even have? Like Butch? Like Butch is going to suddenly, go from. I mean, I just don't even know like who they have.
Butch is over, man. Vince loves Butch. I love him. He's a little runt. God damn it. He loves. I read this. Like he loves the Butch character. Like really, on Madison Square Garden, main event, Butch.
Tonight.
Brock against Butch. God damn it, that's box office. Like, no, it's not box office.
But I think that the Seth idea is interesting because by him attacking once again Cody Rhodes, they're probably not done. So now what if Seth wins it? And if Cody can come back sooner than expected, you can have them fight over it. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I just don't see an option that somebody's slowly climbing up the ladder at the end of the match, and getting to the top and unhooking that briefcase. Like I'm looking at the roster right now, and there's just nobody there that I'm going, yes, I would be really excited if this guy won. That
So
just doesn't exist.
The three names I wrote down were Riddle, who we talked about, which like it feels like they're going that route. It feels like that gets a pop. Edge as a face, like maybe fans are, they forgive him, and we have the intrigue of possibly another Edge title run. And the other one I wrote down is in the same boat as the Miz and Brock. Like it's Cena. Like Cena gets a run through the summer where there is that intrigue, and then Roman squashes him at SummerSlam. Like that's the only stuff I can think of. And then maybe they get a pop of like, hey, movie star wins it.
And the other part about this is Money in the Bank, unless it's Cody, seems so irrelevant because they ain't beating Roman. Like there's intrigue and, like, oh, okay. Like, I think whatever the stat is, 80% of the time, 81% of the time, whatever it is, you cash, you get the Money in the Bank briefcase, you had to put champion. Well, that number's about to go down because whoever wins, like, I don't think that they're going to beat Roman Reigns, even if they do it like surprisingly. They're just not going to beat Roman. They're not going to do that, I think, to end Roman Reigns' long streak. They're not going to do it by some quick roll-up on some dude who won Money in the Bank. So this year it just feels a little less relevant to me because we only have one champ. And yeah, it's a little disappointing, certainly.
Yep.
All right, we move on to match of the week. I think that we all have the same match of the week, but we got to do this anyway, right?
Well, do we want to do match of the week or do we want to do Brian's full report from In Your House?
I mean, well, we better get through this match of the week because In Your House is the ha-ha.
What if they come together, Gabe? How disrespectful. What if my match was from In Your House?
You know what? Then you get off the Zoom. If the match of the week is from In Your House, then it's a two-man show. That's what's going to happen. So
if not, I will report.
The In Your House is the comedy portion of Good Karma Wrestling this week. So I mean, we do all have the same.
I thought the whole comedy hour, but I guess I apologize.
No, we're fired up about AEW. That wasn't funny. There was no ha there.
That's true. That's true.
That wasn't funny. That's frustrating because it's a million things happening in a 2-hour block, and it's just like, where are you guys going with this? Just entertain me, but give me an idea of what's going on. So the match of the week, I think we all have the same match of the week, don't we?
It has to be. There's only one choice. It's like
a long time
Highlander.
ago.
There can be only one. Hell in a Cell.
Brian, don't do
Bucks
that.
and Lucha Bros.
Son of a
Bucks
bitch.
and Lucha Bros was good, but like there was only one guy.
All right.
There's only one guy who wrestled with a torn pectoral and still put on a very
really
entertaining match.
It was
Bro, that's pretty good.
It was.
There was this intergender match in Des Moines I really liked on Fight TV. It's just like, wait a minute.
You guys don't understand. I used Fight TV credits this weekend, and there was a really good match.
Oh my God! But this Athena Swerve match was really awesome, though. You got to see this, guys.
I mean, Gabe, how do you not support your guy Phoenix? He got a big moment there. I mean, the other one I even wrote down was Pac.
Well, you want to know why? You want to know why? Because Tony Khan choked again, and he had the Lucha Bros lose. That's how, Brian. That's how.
Jeez.
We have to give Cody Rhodes his flowers because, guys, we've never seen anything like this.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure.
Not just Cody, Seth, man. Because like Seth, like to have to work that match and still put on. I just feel like Seth to me just went to another level. Like when we talk about, some of the greats being able to carry guys, like Seth had to do a lot of heavy lifting there, because his opponent had one working arm. So like, yes, Cody Rhodes, tip of the cap to you, sir, for doing what you did because it was phenomenal and you put on a hell of a show. But like Seth Rollins did a lot of heavy lifting too. And I want to make sure that his recognition as well.
I mean, we haven't seen anything like this as far as an injury that you can see. There's been problems with injuries, guys working around injuries before, but when Cody Rhodes took his robe off, you can see a little bit of it within the robe when he reveals just the torn pec and how red and how black and purple and blue that he was. There was an audible gasp at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont. because it wasn't cheers or boos. It's just like, oh my God, that ain't makeup. That's real. How in the hell this is what? And so I tweet out at Good Karma Wrestling. I say this match can't last long. If he's got that injury, there's no way he's going to be able to last long. And again, they gave us more than we expected. What did we say last week? Just put it in the ring and then see what happens. But they went above and beyond. Cody Rhodes is the same guy that had put himself through a fiery table just to get over in All Elite Wrestling. He's taken cane shots. He's done everything he could to be able to get the fans to notice him. And for him to wrestle with that injury, a serious injury, where it's torn off the bone, yes. And I guess the doctors was like, well, you can't do any more damage to it. So go ahead. And then he comes back on Monday Night Raw and gets more damage to it. It's just a remarkable thing. It's one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in wrestling, where a guy works with that injury, and not for a 5-minute match, Gabe. No, he wrestled the entire time limit of whatever that was going to be. For Rollins to work around that injury, for Cody to wrestle with that pain is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in wrestling. I've been watching for a long time.
Yeah, I can't add anything to that because, and at first I was skeptical of it. Like, man, because I knew once he was going to wrestle, he's still going to win, right? Like, you're not going to have him go in there and not go over. So I'm thinking, man, how much is this going to affect Seth? Because now he lost to a one-armed man. You know, he's the fugitive. He's losing to a one-armed man. Like, this ain't going to be good for anybody. And the way that they told the story in the ring, the way they did it, I think both came out looking spectacular. So it was unbelievable to see, just because, as you mentioned, the visual was something we've never seen before.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they were good.
I mean, you cut it out, man. I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy is out there with a torn pec. He's dying in the ring, and he doesn't compare to some 200-seat house show that you saw on Fight TV. It's unbelievable.
Buddy Murphy was also really good last night. I enjoyed that match.
I am speechless. I am without speech.
It's unbelievable. This guy, this
It's
if it's not in some bar or some armory, he's not.
He's out.
He's out.
It's got to be in a high school gymnasium. Did it happen in a high school gym? No, not for me.
The red cell ruins it for me. Give me the old cell. I don't need it to be red.
I'll tell you this: if it wasn't for the histrionics with Cody and Seth, the women put on a hell of a match. That opener,
yeah.
Oh, Asuka. Can I say that she's underrated?
Yes.
I still think her every strike matters. When she hit Becky Lynch with a million different shots, it was amazing. And Bianca slips in there with the pinfall. Those women put on a hell of a match. The open Hell in the Cell. About 24 minutes, 25 minutes. They did a really great job.
Yeah, gave him plenty of time, and it was a fantastic match. Yes, I agree with that. Are you okay with that, Brian? Can we give credit? I mean, it was in Hell in a Cell. It was in Chicago. It was kind of a big arena. I don't know if that's okay with you.
No, that was good. That was a good match. Good on them.
Good match. Okay. All right.
2.5 stars. You know, it was probably about average. It was fine. You know, if that's your thing.
How about Kyle O'Reilly against John Moxley? Where's that on the Rowan scale? What do we got there? The Broad
I enjoyed
scale.
it. I don't know. I still enjoyed Pac versus Buddy Murphy more from last night.
I thought it was one of the better Mox matches he's been doing the trio stuff for a while with Blackpool Combat Club, but I thought it was a really good singles match for Mox. I think it really established him as, this is the guy.
I mean, Kyle O'Reilly makes you do that, man. It wasn't just blood and guts, and it wasn't just kick and punch. Kyle O'Reilly made him wrestle. It was kind of a New Japan type style match. I enjoyed that. And by the way, it got Jim Ross interested. Because he sat up in his chair. It's like, this is a hell of a wrestling match. Hell of a wrestling match. I'm like, oh, he's into it. Interested. Because it was physical. I think that's why he liked it so much.
And anytime you get Mox involved, yes, there's going to be physical. But like you said, it doesn't have to be blood and guts. You know what? Because, Brian, you're just so disagreeable. I don't even want to hear your book report. I don't want to hear your little story about in your house. I think we're taking that away. We made you do the homework, and now there's not going to be a payoff because you're just so disagreeable, and you probably have like 3 matches from in your house rated higher than the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match.
Yes, I want to hear your
main roster.
Yeah, I want to hear your Vic Joseph, report here. What happened in your? I'm very interested because this is a rib on you that Gabe and I played on you for because Gabe and I sure as hell weren't going to watch that. Absolutely, in that Jenny Jones studio that they wrestle from. So you tell us what you saw there.
So I will say it took me a few days. It wasn't a straight watch through, but my big takeaway was not terrible. Like I went in with no expectations. I went in with like, hey, I don't know many of these people anymore, but overall more, hits than misses. Mandy Rose is much improved. She's still not ready for the main roster, but she's much improved. Braun, I think, is good enough to be on the main roster. Their tag division, I don't know if it's because I'm comparing it to the old NXT tag division. They could use some work there. But overall, not too bad, but not enough to make me to watch last night or Tuesday night, whatever the hell that show is.
Okay, well, let's have a breakdown of Braun Breaker against Joe Gacy. What do you have there?
No, not a 5-star match. It was just sort of there, but Braun knows how to do his thing. If he got disqualified, he would have lost the belt. So you had that moment where he held the chair and he thought about it, but the inner Braun won over and he was able to do his thing. He's talented in the ring, and even promo-wise, I think he's okay for WWE style. Like, he should be on the main roster. I'd be fine with him winning Money in the Bank.
Okay, you have to look this up because I don't know these names, Gabe. So this
I'm pretty sure he just said Braun Breaker wrestled John Wayne Gacy. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what he just said.
What is this the family with D'Angelo and Lorenzo? They're trying to do some bad Italian gimmick from the 80s. What is this?
100% straight stereotypical. You get the Italian flag in there. They have the names that right up the old WWF alley. But big stipulation there. The loser of that match had to join the other one's stable. So a lot on the line in that match. So I couldn't tell you many names in that match, but a really good match regardless.
Wait, so like and again, I can't believe I'm bringing this up for like the second time in 3 weeks. So very similar to when Cesaro and Sheamus couldn't beat each other, so they joined up?
Uh-huh. That was a big deal. That was the payoff.
Like,
so now they got to join the family.
All right, I guess you're going to have to catch me up here. So if you've been feuding with someone, would you want them to join your stable?
It's like the old sitcom storyline of someone's got to be someone's butler. I see it going that route. But again, it didn't do enough to make me want to watch on Tuesday, so I don't know how it progressed.
Well, Jay Hood, we've lost Jay Hood. Like, we've completely lost him. I think he's watching Impact at this point.
No, because of that horrible rundown, we're going to give you another pay-per-view to watch. Okay, so
Slammiversary's next week.
I wouldn't even do that to you, bro. I wouldn't do that to you. Here's what I'm gonna do. Since I've got fight credits, okay, Browitz, your next assignment will be Saturday, June 11th in Knoxville, Tennessee. You're gonna watch NWA Always Ready.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna watch Matt Cardona, the NWA champion, in Knoxville. Good luck trying to fill that convention center. That's where they're going to be. I don't even know. You know what? Aldous against Cardona.
You know, that actually is going to be good. I think that's going to be okay.
Yeah,
it could be. It's got potential to be. I mean, depending upon how many seats they fill in Nashville,
right?
It's got potential to be Rowitz's match of the week next week.
Let's go.
So next week, you got to give us an update on Always Ready, and always, by the way, spelled with a Z. Always Ready.
That's what all the cool kids do. You know that?
Oh God, the NWA, Billy Corrigan's NWA, his pet project. You're going to give us a full report of Always Ready from the NWA from the Knoxville Convention Center. It's Saturday.
Beautiful.
All right, I can't wait to hear about that. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see. I mean, who knows what the hell else happens? I mean, last week we signed off where, hey, everything was great in the wrestling world. We were looking forward to some things. Next thing we know, the top two baby faces got knocked out. Different injuries. So who knows what happens in this next week of wrestling, but I can promise you one thing. Whatever happens, we're going to be talking about it next week right here on GKW.